Tai Chi. Everybody ready? Let's warm up. Hands at your waist, turn your neck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Stretch your neck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Turn your shoulders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Expand your chest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Waist exercise. Interlock your fingers. Keep your arms closer to your ears as you use your hips and waist to turn to look at the opposite heel of your foot. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Airplane. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Touch toe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Turn your hips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Other way. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Be careful. Shift your weight. Kick your foot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Kick your butt. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hands at your waist. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Turn your knees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Heisman, opening up your span, parallel feet. Choose one side, cross and sit on that side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Shift your weight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Short one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, good Tai Chi posture for a good golden cockerel. Okay. Dropping those shoulders, growing a little taller through your spine, opening up your span. Good thoughts going through your mind. Shift your weight, center, counterbalance and up, golden cockerel. Last set. Kicking out. Shift weight to the left. Center. Follow your kick. Holding your ball on a T-stance, root down on the back or right foot, out on an L, move that ball, bow stance, part the wild horse's mane, get a good stretch. Sit back, lower, pivot, root down, hold your ball to center, out on an L, move that ball, part the wild horse's mane, here it is. Sit back, lower, pivot, ball and T, out on an L, get a good bow and arrow. Sit back and lower, pivot, root down, out and to the side, part the wild horse's mane. Unlike parting of the wild horse's mane, we're going to multitask to brush your knee. Out on an L, move that hand, ear down, hands go for the ride, brush your knee. Sit back and lower, pivot, parallel hands, ear, heel, hand, turn the hips and waist, brush your knee. Sit back, lower, pivot, parallel higher, ear, heel, hand, turn the hips and waist, brush your knee. Sit back, lower, pivot, parallel higher on a T, all together, ear, heel, hand, turn hips and waist, brush your knee. Sit back, lower, pivot. Today's lesson, hold a ball on your T-step. We're going to ward off. Out on an L, push your opponent away by using your forearm. Turn your hips and waist, then reposition your hands and pull down and grasp the bird's tail. As you sit back, look back. Turn, contact, push in the middle of your body, separate your hands, roll back, sit down, spiral up and forward. Sit down, sit back, pivot, hold your ball on a T-step, right hand ready to go, right foot ready to go, out into an L, push your opponent away by using your right forearm. Turn your hips and waist, reposition your hands, sit down, sit back, look back as you grasp the bird's tail. Contact, turn at your hips and waist, center of your body, push out. Separate, roll back and sit down. Make yourself small, then spiral up and push out. Sit back, sit down, pivot, hold your ball on a T-step, out and to the side, ward off. Turn your hips and waist and grasp the bird's tail. Sit down, sit back, look back. Turn, square, contact, push it to the center of your body. Separate your hands and roll back. After learning today's lesson, we are near closing. So here's closing for you to experience. Sit back, sit down, pivot, open pivot, in pivot, embrace the tiger, right hand on the inside of your cross as you rotate. Both palms are now facing you as you come up, push out, separate the hands, shoulder width away, drop your shoulders, flex your knees. Hands go for the ride as we now close our form. So in warding off, we are taking a T stance, an L stance, and a bow stance. Those are basic steps. So we should not have too much problem with our feet movement and alignment. However, we need to modify what we know in already parting of the wild horse's mane. In this motion, you know so well, is a good image where we said you present a snack to the person in front of you. In grasping of the bird's tail, there are two elements. The first one is called warding off and then grasping the bird's tail. But in a nutshell, the movement is called grasping of the bird's tail. So when we're on a T-step holding our ball, we no longer part the wild horse's mane. We take an L stance and we ward off our opponent. We cannot ward off our opponent if we're going to present a snack. So therefore, they're opposite or different movements. When we ward off someone, we want to push the opponent away. The best way is to use the forearm to push your opponent away and still keep the stableness and stability of being grounded. We do not want to ward off and give our opponent any reason to help us, any reason to make us fall by lifting up that back foot. So we want to stay grounded on a good, firm bow stance. So we're using the power of our forearm to push our opponent away. But here comes the second component. After we ward off, we need to grasp the bird's tail. We turn our hips and waist. We turn our hips and waist. When we turn our hips and waist, the forearm hand moves with us. I do not use my hand to get to where I want to be, but I use my hips and waist, okay? So when I ward off, I want to grasp the bird's tail. I turn my hips and waist. I reposition my hands. And I sit down, sit back, look back. Eye contact. I turn to the center of my body. I push my opponent away. I separate my hands and I sit down. And then I do one last push out. Okay? So in that short demonstration, that's what we're going to try to learn today, okay, and practice. Unlike all the other Tai Chi movements that we've learned in the 10 form, to grasp the bird's tail begins by going to the right. So if you can watch, I ward off. Turn my hips and waist, reposition my hands. I pull down the bird's tail, look back at it, contacting, turning my hips and waist, pushing him out again, rolling back, sitting down, spiraling up, and then forward. I do the other side, sit down, sit back, pivot, left hand on the bottom, left foot ready to go. Out on an L, I push my opponent away. I turn my hips and waist, reposition my hands, then I can grasp the bird's tail. I look back at it, I contact with my wrists, I turn my hips and waist, push out in the center, and I roll back. The reason why we started grasping the bird's tail on the left is because we can now close nicely, okay? So that's the reason why. and because of the previous movement that gave us an opportunity to go to the right, to the right. All right? So we're going to take a T stance, right foot insubstantial or weightless, right hand on the bottom holding your ball, because the right or the bottom hand is the advancing hand, right? All right, so here we go. Out on an L, move that ball, push your opponent away by using your forearm. Do not move your hands. Let your body, your hips and waist, turn to the right. Your right hand now is in the right position, the left hand joins it. That's called repositioning of the hands. You are in a bow stance. You want to sit back, sit down. Hands go for the ride. Contact the left hand to the right hand by the wrist. Move your hips and waist to the center. Push out that energy. Separate your hands. Sit back, sit down. Spiral up by unflexing that back knee. Push out. We're going to do the other side. Sit back, sit down. Pivot. Left hand on the bottom to hold your ball on a T stance. Out on an L. Push your opponent away by using your left forearm. Turn your hips and waist. Reposition your hands so that now they're staggered, palm to palm, but staggered. You're going to sit down, sit back, look back so your torso is turned. Contact at your wrist. Turn your hips and waist. Will bring your hands to the center of your body so now you can push out. Separate those hands, shoulder width away. Sit back, lower yourself, sit down. Spiral up by unflexing that back knee that holds our energy. Push out. Sit back, sit down. And then we go into later, once we learn that, into a closing form. Okay? So the main thing is to know that when we grasp the bird's tail, there are two elements. The first element is to ward off your opponent. When you ward off your opponent, what a better way to do it than using your forearm. Do not present a snag. So big difference there. So how do you ward off? Show me how with any hand, how you use your forearm, right? You forearm him. You don't want to be so nice and give him a snag. So forearm with some image of a force that you're applying to your movement. Once you forearm your opponent, what do? Do you go back here and catch the bird, stale? No, you turn your hips and waist. So that's the second or third important element. You turn your hips and waist to grasp the bird's tail. So let's try that. Let's try those three elements, okay? On a T stance, right foot ready to go, right hand on the bottom, ready to go to match the foot. We take an L stance. Bottom hand advances and pushes your opponent away by using your forearm. That's one element. The second important one is do not move your hand, but turn your hips and waist. I want to say everybody turn their hips and waist. Reposition your left hand to then match and stagger palm to palm. Palm to palm, sit down, sit back, look back. Turn your torso, contact at your wrists. Turn your torso so that the hands are in the middle. Then push out. In a bow stance, separate both hands, roll back, sit down. Spiral up, and then forward. Sit down, sit back, the other side so we can have other people to see what's going on. Pivot. Left hand on the bottom, left foot insubstantial or weightless, holding your ball. We're taking an L stance. We're going to ward off and push our opponent away by using our left forearm. To grasp the bird's tail, we turn our hips and waist and reposition our hands. Then sit down, sit back, look back, contact, turn your hips and waist to the center, push out that energy. Separate those hands, sit down, make yourself small. Use that power of the back leg and energize to come up and forward. One more time, sit back, sit down, pivot, right hand on the bottom, right foot ready to go. Do it better. Out on an L, push your opponent away. Turn your hips and waist, then reposition your hands. Sit down, sit back, look back, contact. Turn your hips and waist, push in the center of your body. Separate those hands, sit down, make yourself small. Unflex those back knee up and forward. Sit down, lower, pivot, left hand on the bottom, left foot ready to go. We're going to take an L stance to push our opponent away. Turn our hips and waist, reposition your hands, sit down, sit back, look back, contact. Turn the hips and waist, push out from the center, separate, roll back, unleash that energy, push up and push out. Okay? Very good. Okay, so some things to think about and try to get in a better alignment, okay? So we have to go back to our first few lessons where we said alignment is very important. So in this demonstration that I'm going to do, it is obvious and should be obvious that it is done wrong. You find out why, okay? Okay, you know why. So this is correct. Okay, this is wrong. Proving a point that you know what is wrong. I'm going to fall. I'm going to fall, right? Do you want to fall? No. So what do you have to do? Why is alignment important? We want to be safe. Remember, we have a model or a friend here. We always have to be erect like this finger. If we should tilt or bend that cable, we are going to fall. So remember that cable that you all have. Am I adhering to my cable? No, I need to sit up. I need to keep my head erect. I need to have that cable straight. So everybody has their own cable, right? So can you adhere to that cable? Once you do it incorrectly, the next motion, grasping of the bird's tail, will be even more difficult and more at risk, okay? So that's why I call it to your attention now. And yes, we are beginning to learn something we've never learned or done before. So yes, we can do things wrong, but right away know that it's wrong and then slowly. So say this is an extreme. Nobody does this, but maybe some people do. Then you slowly say, oh, I get the point. I need to raise up. But that's not enough because I still am not straight. I'm a little slanted. I need to then sit up a little bit better more, okay? So it's all within your power. First understand it, then have the confidence that, yeah, you can apply it. And then that's where we are, trying to make our body work with our mind, okay, in unison. When we fix all of that up, then the next element then becomes clean and correct. By that I mean, if we do this correctly, and we know the importance that Tai Chi addresses the whole body, and Tai Chi is not just a hand motion, we turn our hips and waists, then reposition our hands. So easy. But if you do not understand that principle and feel that it is insignificant, you will do something, even that wasn't very wrong. You would do this and come down without any of turning of the hips and waists, which will in the long run give you repercussions, okay? Because the alignment of your hips and waists are not comfortable, okay? So to put closure to what I just said. Hands go for the ride. Watch my forward hand. It moves when I turn my hips and waist. It's just like that magic that we talked about in cloud hands. I am forearming my opponent. To get to my left, I need to turn my hips and waist. This is where I want to be. Once I do that, I can now join the hands. So when I join my hands, everybody look. Are my hands like this? My hands are flatter, repositioned in a flat way. Not like this. Okay, go show me this. Show me this. Okay, this is wrong. I want to do it this way so that the top hand, the palm is facing the floor, and the other one facing the ceiling, rather than two hands in the upward direction. Okay, so this is the ward off. Turn the hips and waist. This hand is already like this. Then this hand joins it. Staggered, because they're not reaching to be in unison. Staggered. Sort of palm to palm, but staggered. And then when I sit down, sit back, am I moving my hands back here? I'm only moving, they're only getting back there because of the power of the energy that I am generating through my legs, my mind. Okay? So they are not hand motions, hand motions, hand motions, hand motions. But there is something more through my core, through my mind, through my flexing and unflexing. Okay, so that's another big, big component. If understood in this movement, you apply it to all movements. It's cumulative, not just an individual particular only to this motion. Okay, so with all that knowledge, any questions? If not, let's practice right away before we forget, okay? Agree? All right, we're gonna grasp the bird's tail to the right. Store the energy in our left root down. If I understand the principle root down, I need to flex that knee and hold at least 95% of my weight. This guy is just a tippy, weightless, near weightless. The right hand on the bottom holding your ball. We're taking a L stance. We're warding off by forearming our opponent. We turn our hips and waist, reposition the back hand. We sit down, sit back, look back. We contact with our wrists. We turn our hips and waist, push out from the center. Separate both hands. Sit down, sit back, make yourself small. Unleash that energy from the back, push up, push out. Good Tai Chi posture. Sit down, sit back, left hand on the bottom, holding your ball, root down on the right, out on an L, push your opponent and forearm him. Turn your hips and waist, reposition that hand, sit down, sit back, look back, contact, push in the center of your body after you rotate your hips and waist, separate, sit down, spiral up and forward. One more portion, sit down, sit back, pivot. Okay, and we'll take care of the following movements next time, okay? All right. So it's not that hard because we have on board our feet alignment. Remember when we first came to class, we always talked about a T stance, L stance, bow stance, and sit back, sit down, pivot, T stance, L stance, bow stance. So this is semi-automatic. Now we just have to take care of, I want to say hands, but remember when I say the word hands, it's not just a hand motion. It's our hands are being moved by the power that we have or the energy that everybody has internally. And we're going to have to learn to generate and move that energy to help our motions that then lie in our hands. And we know that it's not a switch that we just turn on and make that energy move, but it's our core. Everybody has a core, and we know that if we do not address our core, build up the strength of our core, then there is going to be more possibility of falling in accidents. That core, that stabilizer, that central part that everybody has is a part that we are addressing and focusing on. To just wrap it up, if we were just doing hands, then this would be an absurd motion. The hips and waists are not aligned correctly. We are just addressing hands, you know, and that's not what Tai Chi is. You are, in this instance, we're only using our upper arm and our lower and our fingers. But remember that Tai Chi addresses the whole body. If we are concentrated and focused so well, the mind powers our thinking and pushes our body to work through our core to make everything happen. That's why Tai Chi can be so beautiful, because it's that sense of concentration, the building of the core. Okay? Now we're going to string along what we just learned and see how far it is in our advancement to learn the 10 form, okay? Yes, we will come to cloud hands. Yes, we don't know how to do this. Yes, we don't know how to do that. But that's why you're in class, okay? So let's just be a little bit confident, okay? Good Tai Chi posture, Yang 10 form, commencing form, shift weight to the right, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, off the ground, open, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Hands rotate to the middle of our thighs as we take a deep breath and elevate our hands at shoulder level. We drop our shoulders, tuck our elbows and wrists down, and flex our knees. We center the front hand. We look at the back hand that's higher. We open both to the ceiling. We repulse the monkey by bringing the back hand closer to the area of our ear, turning our neck and face as we meet both hands in the middle and slide forward and slide back. Center the front hand, rise the back hand as you glance, open to the ceiling, bringing it to your ear, turning your face, meeting both hands in the center, slide forward, slide back, final repulse of the monkey. Left hand comes close to the shoulder as a parallel hand, right hand up higher. We're on a T stance. We're going to multitask to brush our knee. Out on an L, bring those hands to the ear and down. Turn the hips and waists. Brush your knee. Hands go for the ride. Sit back, lower, pivot. Right hand closer to the shoulder on a T. Left hand up higher. Ear, heel, hand. Turn the hips and waists. Brush your knee. Sit back, lower, pivot. Hold your ball on a T stance. We're going to part the wild horse's mane. Out on an L, move that ball. On a bow stance, here's your snack. Sit back, lower, pivot. Hold your ball on a T. Out and to the side. Part the wild horse's mane. Flip the forward hand, join it with the back hand, where the palm is now looking at you on the left hand. You're on a bow stance. Sit back, lower, pivot, you're at 12 o'clock. Use your left heel to pivot out to the 9 o'clock. Two things happen. Flip the hands, close the feet. Move the hands because you're moving your waist, 12 o'clock cup. 3 o'clock, flip the hands, open the feet. 12 o'clock, stem and cup. 9 o'clock only, flip the hands. Use your hips and waists to get to 12 o'clock. Use your hips and waists to get to 3 o'clock, where two things happen. Flip the hands, close the feet. Middle or cup at 12. 9 o'clock, flip the hands open. 12 o'clock, stem cup. 3 o'clock only, flip the hands, leaving cloud hands. 9 o'clock, center, up, golden cockerel. Kick out. Now we're into grasping of the bird's tail, our new lesson. Out on an L, push your opponent by forearming him away. Turn hips and waist, reposition your hands, sit down, sit back, look back. Contact, turn your hips and waist to the center, push out. Separate your hands. Make yourself small by dropping down, then unflex that knee and come up and forward. Sit down, lower, pivot, left hand on the bottom, left foot ready to go. We're going to take an L stance and push our opponent away. We're going to turn our hips and waist, reposition your hands, grasp the bird's tail, pull back, look back. Contact, turn, push out, separate, roll back, sit down, unflex those knees and push out. Sit back, lower, pivot. Okay? One more time, out this way. Sit back, lower, pivot. One more time. We're on a bow stance, sit, push out. We're in a bow stance. Sit, back, lower, pivot. So in doing this one more time, I want to show you that the hands go for the ride. So we're in this bow stance with just grasp the bird's tail, okay? Sit, back, lower. Now, when we pivot our left foot, the hands go for the ride. That's all I want you to know at this time. Okay, one more time to cinch it down. We're on a bow stance. We have just finished grasping the bird's tail. Sit down, lower, pivot. When we pivot, our hands went for the ride. That means now you're going to be ready for the next last movement. If the thinking behind this is that if we completely finish a movement in the correct alignment, we are then more than apt to do it correctly for the next movement. But if in some way those transitions are not taken note of, we're setting ourselves up for a slight failure, okay? Sometimes hard to retrieve because it is a small transition. So if you can look that over and kind of remember that for next week, that would be ideal.
I'm going to use Lucille.
I'm going to be the stunt lady.
Yeah, she's the stunt lady, okay? And what I'm going to try to do is tell you or show you how grasping the bird's tail is used from a martial arts standpoint only so you have an orientation. Why are your hands in a particular position? And why are you going to a certain posture? Just stick this hand out, just out here. She's a little small, so it's hard to. But I'm going to ward off. See, I'm coming here, I'm warding off, but if I miss, this hand is here to help me. See, put your hand down here. I don't want to be so far away that I can't push her. If she's a strong person, she will get right past me. So when you ward off, you don't want to reach too far. You want to be right here. If she never got close to me from a martial arts standpoint, I've done my job. I protected myself, but she's not gotten to me. But if I want to really keep her away from me, I get really close. I'm here. Oh, it's sort of hard, but so I here. But you should not be reaching out for her. You don't need to do that. So when we do ward off, it's here, protect yourself. And then this other portion is very subtle turn at the waist, but you're also moving your hand. Because what will happen is, if I push her away and subtly I just do this, I have her. I push down here, her elbow is going to have trouble going in this direction, because elbows only move in this direction. So you have her here, and you push, and you've got them. And you sit back, and you use your body. You don't yank. You just drop your shoulders, drop your elbow, and pull your body, and you drag them along. So that's the reason for ward off, a very subtle, you don't have to be going way out here. It's here, gentle. Okay?
So good picture, good understanding, because we really do know that Tai Chi is martial arts based, but we also know that Tai Chi is a dance, we know it's a meditation. So in knowing that it's a meditation and it is a dance-like exercise, with the knowledge of what Ken presented and always presents, we then have that intent that we know about in the back of our mind. So then maybe you might take it one step further and say, why then is Tai Chi so beautiful? I see the hands flowing, I see the body just drifting. The answer is that Tai Chi is a spin-off or a stylized martial arts movement, okay? So I would say, yes, take into consideration, serious important consideration, where the martial arts intent is, and then do what your body wants it to do by then stylizing it a little bit, coming back, okay? But basically, we are all correct, but not to the point where I think one of Ken's, I don't know if I'm doing it right, but he was going out like this. And yeah, that's very incorrect, and it's too exaggerated in being stylized because it's going to create a fall. Huh? It's unstable. He talked about stacking, he talked about gravity, and in that position, we're giving way to gravity. We are not obeying or acknowledge what is nature's force, which is rooting down, making ourselves strong, posting ourselves, and only the foot that does not have that gravity or weight can then now move and shift with weight, okay? So all along, there are different ways of phrasing it, different images, but they all amount to what Tai Chi is in its basic understanding.
Tai Chi is a means to practice the good things of good body position, proper body movements. So, while you're learning to do your dance, you're really training your body so that when you walk out of this room, you walk out with Tai Chi posture, you go one step at a time, going from substantial to insubstantial, always in a stable way, and flat on your feet, not on your toes leaning forward or backwards.
Very good. So just aside, a lot of our conversations are always on Tai Chi, almost always. Okay, so we have a little time. Any questions? And otherwise, we will do Yang Ten form all the way through. Okay, everybody ready for it? No questions, right? All right, good. Turn up the music. Good Tai Chi posture, dropping those shoulders, commencing form. Open. Take a deep breath in as you elevate. Make yourself small. Center, rise up higher, glance, open. Bring it to the area of your ear. Turn your head and neck. Repulse of the monkey. Center, higher, glance. Bring it to the ear. Turn your head and neck. Repulse of the monkey. T-stance, parallel and higher. Alternate L to multitask to brush your knee. Sit back, lower. Pivot. Root down, parallel, higher. Ear, heel, hand, turn the hips and waist. brush your knee. Sit back, lower, pivot, hold your ball on the T-stance, out and to the side, part the wild horse's mane. Sit back, lower, pivot, hold your ball on a T, out on an L. Here is your snag. Flip the forward hand, join it with the back. You're in a bow stance. Sit back, lower, pivot, you're at 12 o'clock. Stem and cup. Pivot your left heel out to the 9 o'clock. Flip the hands, join the feet. 12 o'clock, stem cup. 3 o'clock, flip the hands open, stem cup. 9 o'clock, only flip your hands for cloud hands. Middle cup. 3 o'clock, flip the hands, close the feet. Stem cup. 9 o'clock, flip hands open. Stem cup. 3 o'clock, only flip the hands, leaving cloud hands to become a golden cockerel. Then kicking out. We're going to grasp the bird's tail to the right. Out with the heel, push your opponent away. Don't forget to turn your hips and waist, reposition your hands to grasp the bird's tail as you look back. Contact, center of the body, push it out. Roll back, make yourself small. Unflex your knees and forward. Sit back, lower, pivot, left hand on the bottom, holding your ball. We're going to take an L to push our opponent away. Turn our hips and waist to grasp our bird's tail. Sit down, sit back, look back. Contact, center of the body, push out. Separate and roll back. And spiral up and forward. Next week's lesson, sit back, sit down, pivot, open pivot, in pivot. Right hand on the inside as you turn your wrist so that both palms are facing. You're going to embrace the tiger, pulling him up as you unflex your knees. Bring it up to chest level. Pause. Push out with the power of your left wrist. Both palms are now facing downwards. We're going to close by dropping our shoulders, wrists, and elbows, flexing our knees, wrapping around, up on your heel, off the ground as you now close your form. Okay, very good. Good Tai Chi posture, dropping those shoulders, commencing form. Open. Take a deep breath in as you elevate. Make yourself small. Center. Rise up higher. Glance. Open. Bring it to the area of your ear. Turn your head and neck. Repulse of the monkey. Center. Higher. Glance. Bring it to the ear. Turn your head and neck. Repulse of the monkey. T-stance. Parallel and higher. Out on an L to multitask to brush your knee. Sit back, lower, pivot, root down, parallel higher. Ear, heel, hand, turn the hips and waist, brush your knee. Sit back, lower, pivot, hold your ball on the T-stance, out and to the side. Part the wild horse's mane. Sit back, lower, pivot, hold your ball on a T, out on an L. Here is your snag. Flip the forward hand, join it with the back. You're in a bow stance. Sit back, lower, pivot, you're at 12 o'clock. Stem and cup. Pivot your left heel out to the 9 o'clock. Flip the hands, join the feet. 12 o'clock, stem cup. 3 o'clock, flip the hands open, stem cup. 9 o'clock, only flip your hands for cloud hands. Middle cup. 3 o'clock, flip the hands, close the feet. Stem cup. 9 o'clock, flip hands open. Stem cup. 3 o'clock, only flip the hands, leaving cloud hands to become a golden cockerel. Then kicking out. We're going to grasp the bird's tail to the right. Out with the heel, push your opponent away. Don't forget to turn your hips and waist, reposition your hands to grasp the bird's tail as you look back. Contact, center of the body, push it out. Roll back, make yourself small. Unflex your knees and forward. Sit back, lower, pivot, left hand on the bottom, holding your ball. We're going to take an L to push our opponent away. Turn our hips and waist to grasp our bird's tail. Sit down, sit back, look back. Contact, center of the body, push out. Separate and roll back. And spiral up and forward. Next week's lesson, sit back, sit down, pivot. Open pivot. In pivot. Right hand on the inside as you turn your wrist so that both palms are facing. You're going to embrace the tiger, pulling him up as you unflex your knees. Bring it up to chest level. Pause. Push out with the power of your left wrist. Both palms are now facing downwards. We're going to close by dropping our shoulders, wrists, and elbows, flexing our knees, wrapping around. Up on your heel, off the ground as you now close your form. Okay, very good. Okay, good job. See you next time. Bye.